Hi, it's Gadget UK again. Another pickup video. World Heroes 2 for the Geo MVS. It's looking like an original board. Not really sure because this same board is this particular board is the same one that I've got in my Puzzle Bobble board, and I'm not sure. I suspect it's bootleg, but you know, it's got a SNK artwork there on the silk screen, and it's got the Neo PCM chip, and you know, what look like Toshiba mask ROMs and stuff with the original part numbers and stuff on. So yeah, it's probably genuine. It was described as genuine, but I'm just not so sure because my Puzzle Bobble's identical to this. It's a Prog 4096B. So yeah, I'm just going to strip this down. I just noticed I've got a screw missing there. Actually, I have to find a screw for that. Clean this all up, give it a new label, clean up the boards and stuff, and yeah, I'll show it working. Right, I'm just getting near the end of my obsessive compulsion cart cleaning session here, and it seriously is. I've spent about an hour and a half just doing the sort of post pre-cleaning bit. So initially what I did is, you know, put this in the sink, hot soap and water, scrub, use a scrubbing brush to get into the vents, and then rinse it off, stick it in the bath, put some H2O2. And I need to be clear on this. Someone sent me a PM on another website recently saying, what do you use? Where do you get? What's the best concentration of the J2O? I think it said J2O, and I was thinking J2O. That's that orange juice drink, isn't it? So I had to reply and say no, it's not J2O. It's H2O2, hydrogen peroxide. I think it was a typo, but still, it was very funny. I thought I'd mention it. So yeah, you put some hydrogen peroxide on there with a brush, stick it in the bath. Just do cover one side, leave it for about 3 or 4 hours. Sometimes overnight works best, really, and it's better in direct sunlight. This time of the year, there's no sunlight here in the UK, so in the bath, just leaving it overnight in the bath is the best I could get away with. As you can see, they come out pretty clean. They've still got a little yellow tinge to them, but by the time that's all reassembled with the board and stuff cleaned up inside, they look like new. That one I've already used the Maguire's. I've showed this before many times now. Maguire's plastics there, and it brings up gets rid of all the scratches, gives it its nice gloss back, gets rid of any of the ingrained dirts, and a lot of dirt comes off despite that two lots of cleaning that previously taken place with this. As soon as you put the Maguire's in there and scrub, as soon as you scrub it on, you don't need a lot. You need like literally half the amount of a pea, like half the size of a pea, really small bit, and you'll be able to do one whole side of it with a small that small amount. Yeah, this one still needs doing, but you can see, you might be able to see the difference. You see, because it's just looking a bit. You can see, put up to light there. You can see some marks and smears and all that. Sorry, I'm joking. Started off with a bug. Yeah, so it looks pretty dirty still at that stage, but by the time I've used the Maguire's on it, you can see it goes pretty much transparent, and there's not a mark on there. But by far the hardest bit with these is these damn slots. You get bits of the H2O2 in there, and it's bloody hard to get out, even with a scrubbing brush and stuff. I've been there. You can see I use some cotton buds and stuff, and that's the best way of doing it. Is to, fold the bits of paper in the slots and just slide them up and down the slots. When you finish that on both sides, and you have to go over each side, both sides, I would say 3 or 4 times in some places to get the stuff out. Then yeah, it comes up pretty clean. And use the cotton bud as a very final thing, just to squeeze it in, just whiz it up and down the things there. You can see the label on that side. All it is use a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on and it comes straight off the sticky stuff, especially after it's been soaked in the H2O2. So I'll do the same on this in a minute, and that'll come straight off. So final bit, I'll do that now. Clean that up with some Maguire's plastics, and I'll show you the result. Something else I just want to quickly show you here. King of Monsters, the chip that I took off there, and I did measure this whilst it was on the board. As well, but if we look at the pinouts, you're not going to be able to see this probably very clearly. In fact, it's not even in shot, I don't think. Let's try and move the camera a bit. There we go, so you can see the two together, perhaps. Hopefully, go over a bit. Right. Yeah, the ground, pin 12. So if you measure from ground to each of these O pins, the data pins that connect to the data bus, measure resistance on your meter, and you may find something strange, so I'll just count down to 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, that's pin 12. So from ground, like I say, we check these the O pins, okay, nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of these. We've got some O pins on the other side there, VCC's the bottom pin, but as I go up these you'll see they're all fine. But then if you repeat the same thing for the VCC as well, just to check any resistance from your +5 to your to the data pins, and I'll start with that bottom one. So you can see it's meg. We're talking a region of mega ohms there, 5 point something meg. The next pin, 5 point something meg. 5 point. That's okay. 5. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. That'll look fine actually. Just try the meter the other way around. Yeah, and this is, sometimes you've got to swap your probes around the other way, because you'll see when I do it this way around, I'm going to be hitting some different parts of the internal circuitry there, so that's like 30 odd meg, 25 meg, 30 something meg, 13 meg. That one's pretty low. You know, we've seen around 30 odd meg here, 32 meg. But if I go back to that other pin there, you'll see when it stabilises, it's a lot less. It is a lot less. And just doing things like this can get you that one's fine. This can give you an insight into the internals. That one's again is a lot low. You know, very low compared to the others at 32 odd meg. And that's 32 meg. That's fine. I think this one might be the OE pin. It's not. That's a bit low. But yeah, doing this sort of check, and we'll do the same on the other side there with the other OE pins. 25 meg. 25 meg again. That's 25 meg. 32 meg. So that's pretty low again. 32 meg. That gives you an indication, you know, and if you check this against one of the other chips, you'll probably find it's like 32 meg on all of them, depending on which way around you've got the two probes. Obviously, like I say, test it both ways, from VCC to the data pins and from ground to the data pins, and that could give you an insight. Especially, you could even do this while it's on the board, because there are very few of the components that might interfere with your readings there. I suspect you get the same readings on the board, but doing that could be a good way of identifying which chip it is. I mean, there's other ways you can, you know, do a temperature check, you know, feel the tops of them. If you can get one of these, they're only cheap. You can get these off eBay, about 7 or 8 quid, maybe 9 quid, I don't know. And you just press the button, you get a little laser dot there. You can see on the page. Point it, and it'll give you a temperature. Sometimes these things are not very accurate. The cheap ones from China, so you've got to sort of move. Sometimes even though the dot's dead on the chip, you might need to go to the side of it and wiggle it around, and you'll see temperature variations as you move across the different chips. Sometimes a few degrees on one of these can give you an insight as well. So there's a few things you can do there in terms of determining which chip it is. And the same thing stands true for any of the ROM chips on one of these carts, or any other cart on any other system for that matter. But with the, you know, say graphics, if you had a graphics problem and it was like, you know, really horrendous graphics and you can't work out what it is, you could do the same thing. Check on your C chips on your graphics board there. I think it's the second board, not the top board, the one nearest the arrow. And do the same thing. Just go, you know, check from, like I did from VCC to each of the data pins, and just go around, and you might find that all of the chips bar one read very, very similar values in the, you know, sort of very high meg ohms range, whereas you get a few that are half that, one pin maybe that's just doesn't look right on one of the chips. It's a good, easy, quick way of doing it. Unfortunately, with the Neo Geo, there's no CRC check, or no way you can do a CRC check on the graphics ROMs. You know, I mentioned in one of my earlier videos that the CRC checker checks all of the cart. It doesn't, it just checks the P ROMs. So you could still have graphic or sound corruptions, you know, regardless of that CRC check. There you go, you can see the top bit all cleaned up now. There's been a label on here at some point. I don't know if you can see this in the right light. There's just like an outline of it, and it's almost like melded onto the plastic. The glue or whatever that was used is very, very strong stuff, and no matter what cleaning products I've used, that won't come off. But I'm not too concerned about that. It looks pretty clean, it looks sweet, so I'll clean up the PCB and reassemble. So the other thing I thought I'd just mention here while I'm here before I reassemble this, if you're struggling to work out which way to put these back together, you know, you're not sure which board goes which way around and which way up they go and stuff, there's a really simple way of remembering this. If you put the cart, so the arrow is facing down to the floor, yeah, And then the bottom board is always the char board, the graphics board with the C chips. And there's always you always have an M1 chip and an S1 chip, so you can't go wrong. The C chips, if you remember the C chips as being the bottom board, and the little edge thing here, and they face upwards away from the arrow. So like I say, as the arrow's facing down, the chips face upwards. That's the first board that goes in. And in terms of this little slot here, it can go two ways, because you can see there's a narrower edge at the bottom and a wider edge at the top, and the narrow edge goes for the bottom board. So once you've stuck that C board in with a narrow edge into the little slot thing there, you can then stick, sorry it's not aligned there, you can then stick your other board, and the board that's at the top facing you, furthest away from the arrow, with the chips always facing up, you'll see it's got the V chips on it, and the program. So you've got video, it's not video, audio ROMs, for the PCM samples and things, and the program code. You can't go wrong if you do it that way around, and then just like put it all back together. There you go, after about 3 hours of work total on this. You can see nice new label there, looking pretty sweet, nice and clean, back to being transparent and stuff again. All works and stuff. And if you're wondering how to do these, let's say use glossy paper as I mentioned previously, get some of this double-sided tape. It's just really thin stuff, and you just cut 2 strips, stick them on the back of it obviously, and then snip them, make sure one of the key things with these labels you've got to make sure is it's trimmed right to the very, very edge there, because otherwise they don't fit into the recess and you'll end up having a lump in the middle, or it'll warp up or whatever. But as long as you test it before you start sticking it in, to make sure it's just the right size for the gap there. Yeah, use some of this stuff. So I'll just power this up now, and we'll just make sure it works. As you can see, it's in there. It's looking sweet, and it's playing fine. It's not particularly great fighting game, but it was pretty cheap there. So I got this for about 7 or 8 quid with a few pound postage. It was under sort of £12, I think. It's really good value, and it works fine. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.